We are thrilled to see so many people here. I am super excited to have been working with Mara Grimes to develop this program. Really grateful to Christine Leslie for being here, as well to Dan Demers, who's here for the second part of the program. And with that, I'm hoping that when we advertised this, we advertised it as lively discussion. We really want a lot of discussion because I think we all miss seeing each other and having discussions, and there is a huge amount to talk about. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mara, and thank you again, Mara.
Hi, Petra, thank you, and welcome everyone. We haven't been together in a while, we haven't discussed, and we thought this was a great opportunity. Our mission today, though, is sort of threefold. We're going to learn about the Media Hub from Christine Leslie. We're also going to hear about legislation that's happening that could affect all of us from Dan Demers. And we're also going to take some time to get together. We're going to go into breakout rooms, and we're going to talk about what's top of mind for us. And so we'll do that in between and try and make you move around even though you're sitting in one spot. So I'd like to start out by introducing Christine Leslie, who I'm sure you've read all the accolades, many accolades in her description, but what set her apart from me was her background in high tech and also her passion for ballet, both as a dancer and a board president. And if that's not enough, she has degrees in journalism and mass communication. So very well-rounded education and experience, and the perfect person to tell us about the Media Hub in case you haven't heard about it already. So Christine, why don't you set us off and tell us how it came to be, what it is, pretend we don't know anything, and let's dig in. You have to unmute though.
How's that?
Much better.
Much better. Okay, great. Sorry about that. Yes, well, think back, all of us, where we were just a year ago, which was struggling on trying to think, okay, now what? And like most of you, all of our operations came to a halt. March 19, that was it. Doors closed. We canceled our performances, no more classes. And so, depending not only on the kindness of strangers, I reached out to a lot of friends thinking, okay, what do you think is really going to happen? And the most dire I heard was, if you think this is going to be over in 3 or 6 months, you're dreaming. That this is going to be a long haul. So I was like, okay, we're going to have to figure this out. And one of the things that we started doing pretty quickly was trying to do our classes via Zoom, just like this. So just imagine, you're watching the teacher and the teacher's watching you on these little things, trying to teach you the intricacies of how to work through your feet, and are you exactly balanced the way you're going to be? It's not the best for that. So we started talking about what could we do, and there really wasn't much of anything else. And how we're going to do our performances. So funny how things work. I say you reach out to your friends. I have some friends who've been actually involved in the great performances on PBS. I don't know if you're familiar with those. They go and film all the great performing arts organizations in the world, and have been part of that production team. I said, how much would it cost to get us kind of close to that? And of course there was, after he got up off the floor after laughing, he said, you can't spend too much money on that. I mean, you can be an MGM studio, but how much would it cost us to actually do? So we'd been toying with that. And then out of the blue, Supervisor Groom gave me a call and said, I want to nominate you as a recipient of some Measure K funds. And I said, what can I use it for? She said, anything that you think is going to benefit, your company and help the arts and all of that. So I got together with our team, and it became obvious to us pretty quickly that we didn't want to do something that was just a new production or something like that. We needed to do something that was going to help us in the long haul And not only us, but all of the people that come into our center. We have a lot of other arts organizations that use our facility for their classes, their rehearsals. We have a small space that we do productions in already. So after talking with them, we came up with the idea of the media hub that would allow us not only to, it's going to have multiple cameras, not just one camera. So there'll be camera people, the cameras can go off-site as well as on. I learned that if you're going to do broadcasting, you can't use stage lights. You should use broadcasting, lights for streaming that are specifically designed for that. So that's how it came about when we just started putting it together. And so the goal is that we are going to have a facility that's going to be available not to just us, but to all the nonprofits around, that you can come in and do classes. Just think of it, instead of you trying to, whatever you teach, whether it's fine art, painting, watercolors, you're teaching someone how to play the piano or the flute, you'll be able to do that. And we will have the technology that will have more than one camera. So if you're trying to teach someone fingering or, looking at the paint, or how do you work your foot through, a tendu in ballet, or you will be able to do that at a very high quality. So while they're teaching, someone can zoom in and say, this is what I'm talking about. So the person or people you're talking to will be able to get much more closer to that in-person kind of teaching quality that's so important. So we have that capability. We'll have a green screen. So if you're doing poetry and you're talking about, you're reading a poem or doing, a play, behind us, you can have whatever you want. I mean, you can be at the seashore, you can be up in the mountains, you can be in Munich, whatever you want to do, we'll have that capability. So to do not only teaching, but also then if you want to do a performance, we have a very large stage there. It's good. It's 80 by 40 where we're going to have this space. So we'll be able to accommodate pretty good sized productions. If someone wanted to come in and do a full scale production, be able to do that. Or you want to do something in a traditional theater. I use the example just because people can relate to it. What if you wanted to do Hansel and Gretel? And they are outdoors, they're trying to get their way through a forest. Well, you can go on site now. We can film that with 2 or 3 cameras. They can be dancing, talking, singing, whatever they're doing in an exterior. You're in the theater, you show that on a scrim, it dissolves out, and now all your interiors are interior. So that's the goal to make that happen. So we're very excited about it and very, very grateful to the supervisors in the San Mateo County that they were willing to help support to make that happen.
So when we talked yesterday, I told you that I didn't see the obvious connection between an art form like ballet, which is very old and standard, and a tech hub. It didn't seem like an obvious intersection between tech and arts. So tell us how that, you had a wonderful description and it really made me think about things in a different way. So share with others what that means exactly and how that came to be.
Yeah, well, ballet is a very, very old art form, obviously, and dance is one of the first, things that people did to entertain themselves and to express the emotions. And we've been around a long time. But ballet and any kind of art, as far as I think it should never be, you shouldn't think of it as a static art form. It has to grow, it has to change, it has to be relevant, it has to speak to the times. And you see that even in dance. I mean, we're not, so much of the dance forms that we think of now, modern, contemporary, all of those grew out of ballet. Tap grew out of the clogging and all of that, kind of things that you think of in Eastern Europe. So dance and ballet is a living art form. And it has to be relevant. We have to start employing new technologies. I always have to keep remembering I am not the ticket buyer. People my age, people with my background, I mean, I don't charge myself to go in and see these things. We have to be relevant. And the way you're relevant is to do things in a way that all audiences can relate to. And the younger audiences expect and grew up with multimedia. That's just part of what they expect to see. And so I think this is going to open a whole new avenue of creative thinking for all of our directors and our choreographers and anyone else that wants to be involved, that will allow us to, of course, keep one foot firmly planted in our history and in our culture, but to be relevant. And this, we hope and feel, is going to help us do that. We'll be able to do things, like you say, not only in person, if they're live watching the stage, but you can bring in film or special effects that we just didn't do in the past.
Right. Tell us about the tech, though, part, the collaborations that you're working.
The tech. Well, like I say, I reached out to all my friends, first of all, because I know people who've been involved in presenting the opera and the ballet on broadcast, and said, how do they do that and what do we do? So I am not trying to be, and no one at Peninsula Ballet Theatre that's currently an employee working there, we're not doing this, believe me. I'm not trying to go out and get a fast degree in technology. We've brought in 2 leads, both of which who are Emmy Award winners for doing broadcast. They know how to do this, and they've been people I've known, and they've helped develop the concept. So they're putting together, I didn't know we needed different lights. I didn't know we were going to need to do something a little different with the sound. So they went out, they've spec'd all the equipment. Musson and Holtzmuller will be installing all of the theatrical kinds of tech that we need there. We're going to hire, part of our new staffing is going to be a tech manager, a production manager that knows streaming and broadcast. I mean, a lot of it translates, but a lot of it doesn't. So we're going to have people there on staff that can help all of us, whether you want to be a single person sitting there doing a class or a reading on what you're going to need to make that the very highest quality you can, or do we need a whole crew like you'd be in the theater and a production plan because you're going to do whatever it is you want to do. You want to do a fully produced production of name the play, name stand-up comedian, whatever it needs to be. We are not going to do it. We are hiring people to come in and make that happen, because what you don't want to happen is, don't forget, this is not just going to be for our local audiences. We don't care if someone's in Milpitas or Milwaukee or Munich. They're going to be clicking around looking for this, and if this doesn't, there's so much out there. If the first thing they see is something fuzzy or amateurish, they're just going to click right through. They're on to the next one. So this has to have a really high quality look and feel to make that happen. And we're bringing in the people that can do that.
Right.
The good news kind of is right now, you hate to say it, but there are folks out there who haven't been employed for a long time, sadly to say. And so we have a lot of really talented people who are willing to come on board and to really get this up and running and doing a good job.
That's exciting. That's exciting. And who knows what this will grow into, and maybe be a pilot for other cities to have a media hub as well. So give us a little sense of timing when you feel like you're going to be up and running, and then also how will nonprofits access the media hub?
The goal is, just because you have to pick something, you put a stake in the ground, September 1. Just because the issue is, frankly, getting all the equipment. Everything is not manufactured here in the States, and a lot of it just you know, all the supply channels things. I mean, freighters getting stuck in the Suez Canal sort of thing. So that's part of the challenge. But if everything goes as planned, we're going to have a grand opening in early September. And everyone will be invited, of course. We're trying to put that together right now. And it's going to be available, just like we rent out our studio space. Local San Mateo County nonprofits get first crack at the dates. And probably, friends of PBT, friends of the Media Hub rates. So it's going to be available, and we'll just schedule like we do everything else. It's not going to be free because, this is the funds we have right now are for capital and to bring it in. And anyone that's in productions, lights burn out, things change. And so we have to have a kitty for maintenance, ongoing maintenance and repair and replacement. So that's what the rental fees are to go, and to obviously to pay for the talent that we're going to have there to make it go in. The obvious next question is, what are those rates going to be? I don't know. I will know soon. It's I'm in a whole. I love the intellectual challenge is just that. We just got to figure out how we can do it to make it accessible, but so that we can keep it going for years and years to come. So that the timeline is September-ish.
I like the ish. Thank you, Christine. You did a great job of highlighting the features and the reasons and how we can use it. We're going to move on in our program to Dan Demers of Hillbarn Theatre. You are one very busy and active community member, as well as dedicated to the Hillbarn Theatre and the arts, with a degree in theater arts and direction and background in business management. You, like Christine, have a robust perspective on the arts. We want to hear more about the Chamber Cares initiative that you helped start and how you've become an advocate for the arts with our legislation.
Yeah, so
Sorry, Dan, before you start, we are going to do report outs. We're going to do it after the second series of breakouts. So we're going to do report outs, but we're going to do it after the second set of breakouts. So keep your notes.
Yep.
So hey everybody, my name is Dan Demers. I'm with Hillbarn Theatre and Conservatory here in Foster City. I am also a vice chair member of the Foster City Chamber of Commerce and proud member of that group as well. So I've got a few things kind of to talk about today. First of all, literally 4 days after the pandemic, the shelter in place happened. My lovely colleague who is also here today, Joanne Bohegan, and I had a conversation in which we created the Chamber Cares initiative. And it was based solely on the purpose of asking our community, nonprofits, businesses, independent, everyone involved, independent contractors, how are you doing and how can we help? And that was it. We put a pause on membership and we really focused on community and building up support and engagement in our community to help people survive the pandemic and everything that was kind of thrown their way. And through that was a very interesting, I found very intriguing and also profound that people not only came to us with business advice, but just general questions of how to survive a pandemic. Questions that they had about things unbusiness related, and just providing that ear, right? As most of us know in nonprofit or in business operations, it's important to have somebody to talk to when you don't know how to move forward. And what I'm really proud of is that the Chamber Cares initiative was the think tank and continues to be the think tank for organizations and businesses and independent contractors, sole proprietors to think tank problems. One of the major pieces that came out of that was finding the avenue of advocacy for myself and my fellow arts organizations. There's many of you who I was on the San Mateo Arts Commission cohort with in this call today. But one of the main things I'm very passionate about, as you all know, AB 5 affects all of us in many different ways. Was passed in November of 2019. and I'm here today to talk to you about a couple of different things that are happening in our state right now. So there is a state bill, SB 805. If you don't know anything about it, I encourage you to do some research on it. It was amended this week and changed. So it's constantly in a review state, but it basically says that arts organizations or performing arts organizations there are some stipulations that must be followed if your organization is under $1.4 million. There are certain things that you are able to do and able not to do with relation to AB5. Once you hit the $1.4 million operating budget, your world will change drastically. You will become required to follow the AB legislation that was given out in November. There is a red line version of the bill currently in our the bill tracker on the California State Legislation information page. I encourage everyone to go check that out. But the second bill is an assembly bill, and it was put forward by Assembly Member Levine, who is up in Marin, who saw a larger need of what we needed, of what the community needed through advocacy and leadership. This is AB 1227, Assembly Bill 1227, and what this talks about is basically taking performing arts as well as some other avenues and saying, well, no, ABC test and AB5 are not sufficient for the success of the arts and arts organizations, but rather they should just simply follow the Borello test, which is the original statement before AB5, which allows people to use contract positions for short periods of time, right? Because we, as arts organizations, we hire people to come in and perform a service that they're experts in and use our venue to produce art and shows, dances, anything of that nature. So I encourage everyone to please, please, please take a moment to look at these bills because they are California state legislative bills that will change our industry yet again. Write to your assembly members. If Kevin, Assembly Member Mullins is ours for San Mateo County. If you are outside of San Mateo County, write a letter. I've been working with Max from the Dragon Theater and Alika to kind of get them involved in a conversation, and we are teaming up to send a letter into our Assembly Member Mullins. I'm advocating this for many reasons. The primary reason is that many people did not know about AB5 until it was already passed. And it was kind of a sweeping knowledge that kind of flowed amongst the buildup of a pandemic. And so it was something that we all struggle with and had to struggle with, but we've been awarded, and this is 100% glass half full, we've been awarded the possibility of time, something that we normally don't have. As many of you arts organizations know, once the machine starts running, we're just sitting there cranking the machine to make sure that we're producing art, we're engaging the community, we're trying to be, the institution that our mission statement, shares with the world. But we have time to do this now because we are still sheltered in place and still closed. For most of us, many of us have other avenues that we do things, but now is the time to be focused on legislative efforts and really finding what our electeds can do to help us successfully come back into a post-pandemic reality that allows us to succeed to a certain degree, because the challenges that we face are not only pandemic focused, but also legislatively focused. Any of you know that when you hire individuals on a contract basis with AB5, you need to make them employees. This triggers employee benefits, California, human resource law, all of these things that the company now has to shoulder and take on, which, again, would love to do that, but not necessarily can do that when you're under $1 million. You have to pick and choose what structure and what pieces you do. And with State Bill 805, it really removes I've been calling it the middle class arts organizations that work diligently to provide a service in the gap that we all do, whether you're arts, music, performance, dance, whatever it may be. if you sit between 1 million and 2.5 million, you are kind of in that adolescent growth phase where you're trying to figure out, how do you stabilize and grow and hit a stabilizing nature where you have a consistent donation base and engagement base to further thrive and create, no pun intended, and create the structure that you need to be an influential organization in our county and community. So those are kind of the two pieces. I mean, I can talk for hours about this, but I won't do that because we are on time limit. But I do want to make sure that everyone is aware of them. And it literally, you can go to our the bill tracker, read them. They are dense. I will not lie to you, but they are very informative. Like I said, it goes a long way to help inform your assembly members on how this will affect you. And how their influence can help you succeed when we come out of whatever this next wave of tiered opening is, or community engagement, because we're looking forward to doing that, all of us as arts organizations, but also we want to do it mindfully. One of the great comments in the last round, which we'll talk about later again, was Cindy at the in Pacifica, the Sanchez Art Group. She talked about really focusing on being mindful of how to open with parameters and protocol so that everyone felt safe, right? And I think that's a forefront of our thought for all of us, is how are we going to do that safely? So this is part of that equation, as well as the many plethora of other items that plague our minds every day.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Thanks for all the work that you're doing, for the explanation. I've heard people start talking about it as re-entry, like we have to, and I like that term. I don't like the go back to the normal, because there's things that were normal before that I don't want to go back to. So I like this whole idea of re-entry. Like, how are you going to feel safe to re-enter into?
Yeah, I think we have to think about this as physical therapy, right? We're coming back into the world. We're trying to learn how to stretch muscles, new muscles, new ways of thinking, new propositions and policies that we feel passionate about, that we want to do as organizations, without sending it out to our community and really growing and strengthening muscles for the betterment of change.
Right.
So, can I jump in?
Sure.
Thank you. So first of all, Dan, a huge thank you for just elevating this conversation about the legislation. And I know you're drafting a letter. We would like to amplify that letter. So we will send a follow-up to this, of course, with the links to the letter. But if you would like to take that opportunity to create a place to sign on to it, or we also are sending out our policy and advocacy newsletter, which has a broader reach, that'll go out on Monday, and be very happy to create a place where arts organizations, or really anybody else, can sign on to that letter, so that you can send it in with a lot more signatures, because that is kind of why we're here. That's
a great idea.
So we can amplify those issues. And I know that AB5 is a big issue for arts organizations, and we'd be happy to help get signatures.
Great, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think we're a lot stronger together, right? A lot stronger together. Dan, thank you so much. Anybody have any last minute questions before we go to the next breakout group for Dan? Or about AB5 or anything else? Robin, did you want to say something about your toolkit?
Sure. April was the annual Arts, Culture, and Creativity Month, recognized by the state of California. And it was created in 2019, was very successful. We went up and lobbied all throughout the Capitol to all the senators and assembly members. And of course, 2020, it got canceled because of the pandemic. But it was brought back. It's chaired by Californians for the Arts, and I highly recommend Their memberships are extremely reasonable. And I recommend that you all join. They track all this legislation. They are in Sacramento. And so I strongly suggest that the easiest, fastest way to find out what's going on, and they will give you templates and letters to send to your legislators. So I definitely suggest joining them. And for one of the goals of the San Mateo County Arts Commission strategic plan that was adopted a year ago, February 26th, was to create a toolkit for San Mateo County arts and culture and creative organizations to lobby for themselves, to advocate for themselves. And I created a toolkit with some great help from one of our arts commissioners, Harini Krishnan, and it has been published on, I think, the San Mateo County Arts Commission Facebook page. I can also send you a link to it, or Harini can as well. But it's advocacy not only for ACCM month in April, but for legislative, for just general advocacy, for general support, and for specific legislation. And it also applies to you can use the toolkit, there's stuff in there for not only your state, but your federal and your local, like your board of supervisors. They need to hear from you. Otherwise they're operating in a vacuum and they don't know what you're all doing. So that would be my recommendation, is to look at our tool, the Arts Commission toolkit, advocacy toolkit, and Harini and I are happy to share it with you if you can't find it on the Facebook page.
Thanks a lot, Robin. I appreciate your sharing that. All right, we are, I'm a stickler for staying on time, and the agenda says that we are now going to go into another breakout room. And this time we're going to talk about what does reentry look like for the arts, and tell us about your plans and your concerns for the future. All right, so we're gonna do breakout room. We're gonna come back. We're gonna report back on breakout. See you soon.
Need to say thank yous again. Mara, you did a great job, and it was terrific to hear from Christine, and Dan, we really appreciate your advocacy as well. So a couple of things. First of all, we are absolutely going to follow up with an email with all of the links and all of the bills and all of that, so you have that, and you'll also all get the policy and advocacy newsletter on Monday, which will have the same thing but broader. And I'm hearing loud and clear that we should have a meeting next month, but what I'd love to hear from you guys, and just feel free to email me. It sounds like reentry is something we just need to talk more about. But if there's anything specific or a specific person that you want to hear from, please let me know so we can plan that. I have a quick question for everybody, and if you can just like raise your hands and wave or something, that would be great. Is morning or afternoon better for you guys? So who prefers morning? Because we've done both. Afternoon?
Probably.
Okay.
You are asking the people that were able to make it in the afternoon.
Exactly.
So,
I think I might just put that out there.
yeah.
As maybe we'll put that out there in the follow-up to this as a little poll to see, because we've jumped back and forth with this group, and it's hard to tell what the best thing is, but we want as many of you to come as possible. So anyway, thank you all so much. Thank you, Georgia, for helping facilitate too, and we will see you guys next month and on email.